Hi there, great to be with you all this morning. My name is Alex Gelbach. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Open Cities. Customer experience is a topic that's close to our hearts at Open Cities. We're excited to be part of today's webinar, sharing our learnings and lived experience, sometimes from the trenches. You could say that's where all the grey hair comes from. Over the last 10 years, we've worked with city leaders across Australia, New Zealand, and even US most recently, to help them think differently about their city website. Register my dog, apply for a permit, get a business license. Local govs process thousands of these requests on a daily basis, and the more that people choose to engage with your city online, the more the website becomes the digital front door to the city. For some segments of the population, their experience with the city website forms the entirety of their experience with the city. So a lot of our dialogue has been centered around not just redesigning the city website, but redesigning the way that cities do business. And whilst the customer experience challenges local governments face aren't uniform, they certainly are consistent. Luckily, so too are the things we can do as digital leaders to move the needle towards better CX outcomes. And best of all, from our learnings, many of these things are really practical, kind of actionable wins that don't demand a significant enterprise level investment or a tech lift. So to share some of these learnings, I'm proud to introduce you to Cynthia Francis, one of my colleagues and a Code for America alumni, who's definitely been right in those trenches at local, state, and federal level government work in the US. And James Roberts, the Manager of Business Systems and Technology at the City of Unley in South Australia, who've been doing some absolutely incredible things. And if I could point to a city that's really achieving quick, practical, actionable wins, I would say City of Unley definitely emerges. Cynthia and James, over to you.
Thanks so much, Alex, and really a pleasure to be with you all today. So when I look back at some of the experiences I had at Code for America, which for those of you who may not be familiar, Code for America is a nonprofit that was started here in the United States to focus on bringing the best of the tech sector into local governments and actually state and federal level governments as well. And one of the projects that I worked on when I was with them was a benchmarking report looking at 80 different cities across the United States and understanding what was it that the people that lived in those communities wanted and deserved from their government that they weren't getting in their local government website. And the response was pretty overwhelming that they wanted their local government to work very much like the rest of their life worked. They wanted to be able to go onto their mobile device and have access to the ability to transact with their government and to complete that transaction and not have to be going into City Hall or local council offices, not having to hunt down where to print out a PDF and how to then get it back through the door. And when we look at research, really a broad cross-section of research, we can see that the issues of reliability and scalability, the ability to find things quickly and be able to transact, those are really primary issues in many different studies. In this particular study, those larger circles really indicate the importance for citizens and why, and point us toward reliability and scalability as two of the primary factors. So what we want to be able to do in our government environments is to have our residents and visitors quickly find what they're looking for, be able to take action on their need, get feedback, and then be able to feel confident that government has understood them, has given them exactly what they were looking for, and hasn't overwhelmed them with government speak and a lot of directions and information that feel important if you work inside government, but perhaps less important if you're trying to access government. For me, I think about really well-intentioned technology that perhaps results in overkill. So if you think about how great this remote control is and how many things it can do, I would not be surprised if it can toast bread and do all sorts of other fun stuff. But in fact, it's very, very cumbersome for someone who is either non-technical or older or has some other reason why this amount of information is frankly just too much. And even though it may be less elegant, what they're really looking for is, can I get to the station that I want to get to? Can I change the volume and maybe even go to some new station? But I don't need that overkill, that abundance of information that makes it really difficult for me to understand kind of where I need to get and how I'm going to have my problem solved. You heard earlier today from Chris in Toronto talking about putting the user at the center, and it's really something that both at Code for America and now at Open Cities that we really prioritize. How do you put that user at the center of not just the way we develop technology, but also how we deliver that technology? That if we can start with something small, get feedback from the community that's using it, and then iterate, that's really a great way for us to bring real value and move to a much more services-focused kind of approach. One of the cities that we've worked with here in the United States is the city of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Again, context for Grand Rapids, it's about 200,000 people. It's in the northern part, not too far from Canada, actually. It's in the upper part of the state of Michigan. And the team in Grand Rapids had a couple of real limitations in terms of how they were going to be able to move forward. They were not going to be able to hire additional staff. They had a web team of 3 people, 2 of whom were full-time focused on the website. And they had a budget that allowed them to bring in some additional services, but they really knew they wanted something that was flexible and that could grow with them over time. And so they needed to be able to understand how could they most efficiently apply some of the best practices learnings from folks like us to come through the door and say, look, these are the things that make a website really address the needs of the citizens. And a lot of that was converting to a digital services approach, right? In that approach, what they were able to do in a very short window of time was to convert 235 services, right, that had been PDFs that needed to be presented at City Hall. Limitations, again, with transportation, especially in times like these where we're not wanting people to come into social contact, we're really wanting to protect ourselves. Having digital services was a huge win, has been a huge win for them. They were also able to see tremendous benefit in some of their key services. For example, turning on water service was the largest, from a data perspective, it was the largest service that we could see people were using through the city website. And they saw a 19% reduction in the walk-ins to City Hall to achieve turning on water service or adapting water service to a building. We think a lot of times about the impact that this has on residents, how much better it is for them, but it's also significantly better for people that work inside government. The changes that were brought about by digitizing and putting those services, turning those services into digital experiences, resulted in a substantial cost savings, because when people show up at council offices and they don't have the right paperwork and then they need to go away and come back, or they send something in, the staff then has to deal with multiple points of contact and multiple ways that they're chasing down information. So the cost savings was quite substantial as well. I think it's probably best to hear directly from people who've had this experience. And so with that, I'm going to turn this over to James from the city of Unley to take you through some of his experiences.
Thanks, Cynthia. That's really inspiring, and I love the work that you've done, particularly with Code for America. I think it's really exciting and leading the way globally. For those that don't know, the City of Unley, we're an inner city council in the bordering the City of Adelaide. We have a very highly passionate and connected community. Our community is really interested in the environment and trees and culture and main streets and services. Very passionate community who expects the best from us. And what that does is create a lot of space for innovation and new ways of thinking, which is really exciting. It means that it's a very exciting place to work and to always be on your toes and trying to think of new ways to deliver services. We started our digital transformation journey a couple of years ago, and one of the things that when we first started out was we wanted to put people at the center of everything we did. So the first project we launched was developing a people-centered design framework, and got an incredibly passionate digital transformation lead, shout out to Alex, who put a huge amount of work into understanding how can we start to build out digital services and technology solutions, but based around people. So we looked at best practice and we put together this framework, which we've applied with a few projects now, and it's been really successful. And what it is, it's about understanding our customers' needs, nothing groundbreaking there, but also then the delivery and how we actually design, prototype, test, and build our services, and all the way through to launch and continuous improvement. So one of the first big projects that we used this framework for was our new council website. We previously had a very business-led website based around our business structure. So how did we, generate a website that was more user-focused? So we did a huge amount of research. We looked at our CRM data. We went out and did surveys and interviews and workshops with our community. Really tried to understand what it is that people want to achieve when they come online. When we had all that research together, what that did was paint a very good picture of what our community actually needed from us, and we tested that as well. So with our previous website, the testing showed that people could find what they wanted 50% of the time. With our new content and menu structures, we found that people could find what they wanted 90% of the time, which was great data for us. So what that meant was straight away we could take that and build that into a website. So we ended up with the Open Cities platform. One of the things that drew us to the Open City solution was that a lot of the modules and the content templates and things had already been really well thought out and designed. So it meant that we could take all of our research and very quickly and rapidly build a website without having to get bogged down in customization and configuration and technology. So that meant that we were able to build an alpha site in 5 weeks. And that alpha site we took to the community and asked them to give us their feedback. And every day we'd get feedback from them, and we'd go in and iterate and design and improve and continue to test up until the point we were ready to go live. What that meant was as well that, we as I said, we went from a very business-focused website. We had 300 items on our menus before, and we'd taken that down to 90. So we were focusing on the things that were most important to the people in our community. And it was based around how customers want to interact and engage with us. And we also wanted to apply that to how we design our content as well. So previously we had a lot of policy type content that was written from a business perspective using lots of terminology, and our team put a lot of effort into redesigning and rewriting that content into being much more task focused as well. And just things like using business terminology. So we previously would say something was an expiation, but our customers didn't know what that means. So now we call that a fine. And our business area was, the legislation says an expiation. So, our customers don't necessarily know what that means. So sort of changing that mindset has been one of the biggest journeys that we've been on as well. Moving from task-based content as well, and using this sort of step-by-step approach to guiding people through how to access a task. We work really closely with our customer experience team and tried to understand when somebody rings through or visits us, what is it they're actually trying to achieve? And then we designed our processes based on that. One of the other things that we wanted to do when we set out was we talked about having our website as a digital front door, and we wanted to be true to that. What we didn't want was a facade where people would come to our website, but then if they actually wanted to do something with us, they'd have to link out to an e-services portal or some other third-party system. So we focused a lot on integrating as much of our services into the website to provide that really seamless experience. So a lot of our forms and transactions we've embedded within our content, so it's very seamless. If you want to change your name, you can just do it all within the page. And we've integrated those forms as well into our back-end pathway CRM system so that they workflow through and then kick off that business process behind the scenes. When we went live, one of the things we found was that people really wanted to look up development applications. And when we looked at our data, we found that people weren't finding what they needed. They were using our search box to search for a development application, but all of our development applications were sitting out on our e-services portal system that was very clunky to use. So we wrote a custom bit of integration to bring across those development application into our website. So now they're very visual, very easy to find. They come up in search. We've embedded the pictures of the property and plans. And that's actually one of our most popular content pages on the website now. And that's also diverting a lot of customer service inquiries and site visits as well, which is something that we're really happy about. Something that we focused on as well is if we can't measure what we're improving, then there might not be any point doing it. So as we transforming services, we've been investing heavily in data and monitoring and building dashboards to start to track, what are the adoption rates of our digital services, and are we meeting the outcomes that we set out to do? So using Power BI dashboards and reporting over our open forms and open cities data, and also our internal document management systems, and looking at what percentage of people are actually adopting digital services and how successful are they? Are they satisfied with what's happening, and are we achieving the outcomes as well? I think that's really important, and that's giving us an executive level view, but it's also helping us drive continuous improvement moving forward so we can continue to build and improve and develop those services, make sure we're hitting the mark. Something that we found really powerful as well is the insights dashboards and the open forms product. And the reason why this is useful is we're providing a lot of people inside our organization with the tools to build out those digital services. So they're able to visually see the impact that their service, that their design has had, and they can see what the cost savings are, how effective it's been, and what the feedback from the customer is as well. So if they need to make any tweaks or changes, they can do that themselves. So it's really about empowering people in our organization and giving them the capability to build their own digital services, which is incredibly powerful. So I guess, I mean, for us, this is just a journey that we've been on over a couple of years, and we're a reasonably small council. We're not a big organization. We don't have big budgets to invest in huge services platforms or really tightly integrated, end-to-end systems. So we set out, well, how can we, first of all, design our services from a people perspective, and then try and solve that with the tech. And what's worked really well for us is is working with no code or low code platforms. Being able to move very quickly and design iteratively and test and make improvements, building that capability within our organization so that the people inside the business have the tools to build their own services, and empowering people with some very simple drag and drop tools. And also we've done a bit of work and building some very simple integration with our internal systems so that we're still leveraging our very powerful ERP and CRM systems, but we are pushing that front end, that customer service front end, to our cloud-based, very much more expressive and agile forms platforms, but we're still getting the best of both worlds. So that's our journey, and we're still continuing to grow and learn every day. Something that we've been talking to a lot of other councils recently who are going through a similar process as us, and we're looking at setting up a digital services network with other council or any level of government, actually people designing digital services and sharing their experiences and possibly code and that sort of thing. So I'll talk to the guys. We'll get a link sent out if anyone's interested in catching up with us on a more regular basis and sharing your learnings. Thanks, Cynthia.